So according to Andre at Sony Alpha Rumors, there's been 3 new Sony cameras registered. One is a new ZVE mount camera that is a full frame. One more than likely is a lower end camera, and then one is a higher end surprise. That being said, I'm kind of confused about this entire situation.
What does it all mean, Basil?
So let's start out talking about the new full frame Sony ZVE mount camera. Initially, it was reported that it was going to be a point and shoot camera that had a full frame sensor. Later, it was said that it was going to have the A7S III sensor, so it was going to kind of be like a mini A7S III. And to me, that sounded super exciting and kind of made a lot of sense to have actually a point and shoot camera that had specs similar to the A7S III and would be really good for, you know, content creators or people that maybe just wanted a really good B cam that goes along with an FX3 or A7S III or A7 IV. It really made a lot of sense to me to have something like that around $1,400. But then the rumors shifted. Apparently this is going to be a Sony ZVE camera, so it will have actually the E mount. Now it's kind of confusing to me, so I'm not exactly sure where this is going to fit in. So I know Andrea says that this camera is supposed to be coming out towards the end of March, and I would think that he has, I guess, the most reliable information about this camera. That being said, to me, this camera doesn't make sense as a ZVE mount camera. It's possible that they're going to go more high-end with this ZVE mount camera and make it like a mini A7S III, but I really do not know how it would compete with, say, the A7 IV or the FX30. It just seems kind of odd. What I could see them doing, though, is instead of being a ZVE mount camera, this possibly being, say, an A7S-C. So they could bring that in somewhere around like $28.99 or $27.99. It would still compete slightly with the A7 IV, but they would probably, you know, make it more compact like an A7C in general, and maybe just add one card slot, maybe take out the EVF, or maybe make it really small, like on the viewfinder or the side. Now, I could be completely wrong, but an A7S-C makes more sense than a ZV camera, at least in my mind. Now, moving on to this second camera that he mentions, he says that it's going to be a very low-end camera, possibly something completely different. I'm not sure if they're going to maybe compete with, say, the lower-end APS-C camera like an R10 from Canon, or if possibly they're going to go for a lower entry-level full-frame camera, something maybe to compete with the R8 from Canon. And that, to me, is where things start to make more sense, if possibly Andre is getting a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, because I could see that maybe being the ZVE mount camera. So that would be like the entry-level full-frame camera and not a mini A7S, III. I can see that possibly being the new ZVE mount camera that's full-frame, coming in somewhere around $1,500, competing with the R8. And maybe an A7S-C being somewhere around like the $2,800, coming under $3,000, and that not necessarily being marketed as a ZV camera. Now, moving on to the third camera, he says it's going to be a higher end camera and that he's excited to talk about it. He doesn't give us too much more than that, but he does say that it is not the A9 Mark III. He says that the A9 Mark III is coming, but it's not until later on in the year. So I'm a little bit confused about what this camera could be. Initially, I do remember him saying something in December that an A1 Mark II would actually be coming possibly this year. That was a rumor, but I don't really think an A1 Mark II makes sense at this point. And also they're doing a pretty big firmware for the A1 supposedly, so I don't see them going ahead and following up the A1 Mark II. There's not any big sporting events that I can think of that would be wanting to release for. So to me, that makes more sense for like a 2024 camera that's right before the Olympics or something like that. I just do not see an A1 Mark II making much sense right about now. Then that moves us on to, if they're going to be doing a follow-up, would it be an A7S IV possibly? I think that is somewhat of a possibility. Myself personally, if an A7S IV came out, I would probably wait to see if possibly they're going to be releasing like an FX3 Mark II before I would jump into this thing, because that's kind of what they did with the A7S III, is they released it after like 5 years of waiting. And then 5 months later, they're like, just kidding, we have actually like a more video-centric camera coming. So I don't know, I would personally wait on that, but if you really like a EVF, which the A7S III has a great EVF, maybe this would be a camera for you. I still don't know if this makes sense to be an A7S IV because of how well the FX3 and all those different cameras are selling right now. What maybe makes the most sense to me is for it to be a high-end APS-C camera, something maybe to compete with the Fujifilm X-H2S, maybe something that's kind of like a hybrid version of the FX30, or something that's maybe even like a mini A9 or a mini A1, something that's even a little bit more high-end than the FX30. That kind of makes the most sense for me if they're talking about high-end. I can see a high-end APS-C camera coming, but that's complete speculation and completely guessing on my part. If you can think of something it could be better than me, drop in the comment section below and let me know. Maybe it's like a medium format camera, something like that. Kind of doubt it, but it would be really cool if it was. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.